everybody, and welcome to the Alex Cuesta Daily Show. How is everybody doing on this beautiful Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022? I'm sorry if everybody's missed me. It's been a long 5-day hiatus break. Had some technical issues with the computer, but those are all worked out now, and we are back. And we are as good as we possibly can be in this crazy, crazy world. The war is still raging on in Ukraine against Russia. That war is getting muddier and muddier, and things are getting weirder and weirder. But I'm not here to talk about the war today because there's so much to be said about the war. There's so many new thoughts in my brain about the war that maybe one day I'll unleash through an article, because of course I'll find an article on it for the show to do. But I'm not going to do that here today. So before we get going with anything else fun, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify, and spread this word of mouth. All these things are extremely important. Please do all of them because it will only help to grow the popularity of this fun, fantastic show. And on social media, go find us, The Alex Cuesta Show. Search it. It'll show up. You click it and follow everywhere you go there. So we're going to start off, as we always do, the Biden COVID tracker. And I do have to say that we're going to be doing a 5-day average, and things have been going actually swimmingly, like I said, since Joe Biden has stopped paying attention to it. So let's go. As of the 25th of February, which was the last time I talked to you lovely people, we were at 78,733,444 cases. Deaths, we were at 943,312. As of today, March 3rd, 2022, we are at 79,005,632 cases. That is an uptick of 272,188 for 5 days. That used to be a single day average. We are at a 5-day average of 54,438 cases. That's fantastic. Omicron is dying. Omicron was the most easy one to spread out of all of them. To have that case number is fantastic. And deaths were at 951,778. That is an increase of 8,466 over the last 5 days. Again, death average of 1,693. Only going to get better soon because, again, the death numbers lag around 2 weeks behind-ish is what the common knowledge has been. So we're going in the right track. We have the right trend. And it's beautiful and it's hilarious because mask mandates are lifting up. No vaccination mandates. People have been going to venues and sporting events for a long time now. And people are stopped giving a fuck about the masks for a long time. There are plenty of people still unvaccinated for a long time, and we don't hear about this stuff much anymore. And it's only getting better. Just goes to show Biden's plan was bad. Biden really didn't have a plan, and the best plan is for him not to be involved and to leave it alone. Him and Tony Fauci, leave it alone. What have we learned? When this shit goes on, don't listen to the unelected fucking bureaucrats. The quote unquote experts. Take their wisdom, take their advice, but their word is not gospel. So that's what we've learned here. Things are getting better. And I will continue doing this until they lower it to an endemic, which they have not done yet. They are still holding on and calling this thing a pandemic with those numbers. Not about safety, not about health, people. They could always pull in emergency powers whenever they want because they are still in pandemic mode. So there's that. So quickly, Positivity Monday style right here. I want to tell you the titles of the 2 stories and just a brief synopsis on them because I was ready to have fun with them because it was a different type of Positivity Monday, but I never got around to it again, computer difficulties. So it was different. First one from SciNews.com. Study, meat consumption is positively associated with life expectancy. This is for all you red meat eaters out there, you people that love to eat your beef, lamb, things like that. This was a study done by a team of scientists in Australia, Italy, Poland, and Switzerland. They took data from the UN population data of 175 countries and found that the countries that had a higher meat consumption had longer life expectancy. Again, the ones that had lower meat consumption, like per capita, I believe it was. I don't think it was overall, per capita. So per person had a lower life expectancy. I don't know what to take out of it, but if you're a meat eater, that's good news because that means keep on eating meat. You might live longer. So that was the good news for meat eaters. Now I flipped it over. There was good news for your non-meat eaters. This one was from The Hill. And it was a article titled Vegetarian, Pescatarian, and Low Meat Eaters at Lower Risk of Cancer Study Finds. And this was done Oxford, a group of Oxford researchers over in the UK did a test of 500,000 British people. That's a lot of British people from 2006 to 2010. And they had a very comprehensive, this is a very, very good study. 500,000 is a good study. And they found that just with a whole slew of diseases, cancers, things like that, that it was a lower risk for those that ate less meat. So again, if you are a person that eats less meat, that either doesn't eat meat at all, eats less meat, this is a positive for you. So there were positives all around. That was our Positivity Monday, which I've never got around to. Again, technical difficulties, but that was what it was going to be. Because it was nice. Positives for meat eaters, positives for non-meat eaters. We can all go by. And the moral of the story was there are benefits to both, obviously, here. Choose whatever you want. Eat whatever the fuck you want. Enjoy it because we have one life. Enjoy your life. Stop bitching at others for their decisions. So another thing I wanted to drop before we get into the main article, which I might throw up while doing, but the ID.me has not quit. Washington State is going to become, I believe, the 30th or 28th state, one of them, to adopt ID.me. And they are using the facial recognition and the selfie technology. And it's a bad thing. That's another state that's doing it. ID.me keeps getting contracts. We need to fight back against this bullshit. They are slowly but surely, we talked about how the smart health card is a vaccine passport. ID.me has flat out said they want to make digital passports. We have CBDCs on their way, digital currencies that could be controlled by the central government. We see what is going on in terms of basically digital currency control against Russia. They're getting shut out of banks. That's all digital stuff done. They're getting things cut off at their knees. Deals are getting done. When there is a centralized power to turn to that can shut things off, they do it when they want to. So just be wary of all this shit. ID.me is not quitting. They're rolling out in Washington. Washington State is deaf to what's going on, obviously. And that's what's going on there. So people, anyone listening to Washington, fight back on this. Again, senators, your state senators, your state congressmen, not your federal, talk to them. They're the ones that can do something about this shit. All right. So we are going to head into the article. Now, anybody that watched the drivel that was the State of the Union last night, oh, I feel bad for you. I watched it, and I feel bad for me. Joe Biden has deteriorated in front of our eyes. It is sad to see. He made it through the speech. He had vigor. He had, he made it through. He had some fire and some passion, but he stumbled almost every time he opened up his mouth. He missaid so many things. And then you have Nancy Pelosi being a fucking weirdo behind it with the knuckle rubbing and standing up and being giddy while he's talking about something serious. I don't know what's going on with that whole entire goddamn party. The left is insane. But we're here to talk about Joe Biden because one thing that goes on with a lot of these speeches is a lot of the major news networks have these speeches well ahead of time. They have stories already written well before the president ever gives his speech. And they're all puff pieces or negative, depending on who it is. Trump, they had all negatives. These are all puff pieces. You could tell that this guy, Jonathan Allen from NBC News, had this piece written already because you cannot honestly write the piece I'm about to read to you after the speech that you hear this man give. So we're going to read this article, and it's terrible puff piece article that does not tell the truth. So let's go. As Biden leads free world against Putin, Trump equivocates. Right there, Biden doesn't lead shit. Biden is not the leader against Putin here. Zelensky is the actual leader. Everyone is looking to Zelensky for strength. Nobody's looking to Joe Biden for strength. So right away, this title is misleading. This article was written today, earlier this morning, again, by Jonathan Allen, NBC News. Let's read this drivel. This is as bad a drivel as Joe Biden gave in his State of the Union. It is rare that a president can show he is living up to the mantle of leader of the free world, and even less common for him to do so against the backdrop of his main political rival praising an autocrat. So right away, thank God this is titled an analysis piece, because this guy is showing his bias and his stupidity from the get-go. Living up to the mantle of leader of the free world, this leader of the free world would not do harsh sanctions until Germany got on board. Who was he leading? Who was he leading? We weren't even going to do sanctions against Putin as a group, as NATO, unless Germany turned around and stopped relying on their Nord Stream 2. He barely convinced them to do that. And he probably didn't even have the convincing arm there. It was probably more of Putin's brutality and heading in. There is no say whether or not what Biden's role has been in NATO. So no, he has not led anything. And his main political rival praising an autocrat, we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's keep going. But that's what President Joe Biden did during his first State of the Union address, highlighting how he has led the Western world in defending the Ukraine against a Russian invasion. 6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways, but he badly miscalculated. Biden said to a roaring bipartisan standing ovation on the House floor Tuesday night. A roaring bipartisan standing ovation? Was he watching the same group of people? He wasn't roaring. Yes, they did their typical dumb fucking stand up and clap nonsense, but it was not a roaring group. The Republicans obviously had disdain for this man and the way he's handling everything. And I'll tell you right now, I'm about to read the quotes from his speech better than Biden ever did, because he stumbled over everything. The man did not speak very well at all. He looked bad. Let's keep going. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, and in this nation, Biden continued. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. The notable exception, former President Donald Trump, is what this douchebag said, Jonathan Allen. Oh, my God. Let's keep going here. Less than 2 weeks ago, Trump praised Putin as a genius. On Saturday, during a speech to the Conservative Political Action Conference, he altered his formulation to blaming Western leaders for being so dumb. And just hours before the applause washed over Biden, Trump complained that Republicans, Democrats, and news media misinterpreted his remarks about Ukraine, even as he again declined to directly criticize Putin. Okay, so let's break this down. Number one, he gives you little snippets without actually giving you quotes. So that's how you know any side that does this, whether it's the right or left. If they don't give you a full quote, they're being disingenuous about their attack, because they know that a full quote will take down whatever it is that they wanted to say. So the reason he didn't call Putin a genius, he said that his move was genius and that Putin was politically savvy for heading in and doing it the way that he did. That it was a genius move because the West was so weak to come in and say that he recognizes those two places and play peacekeeper. He said it was politically savvy. Now, whether he was correct or not on that assessment is different than saying he praised Putin. He's called Putin a smart guy. I don't think anybody says that Putin's a dumb individual. I don't think anyone that's ever met Putin in the world stage has said he's a dumb individual. I think everyone has said he's smart, that he's an intelligent person. He's a communist autocrat, but he's an intelligent individual. And then he altered his formulation, blaming Western leaders for being so dumb. Western leaders are fucking dumb. They're weak and they're not smart. They're worried about wokeness and transgender and all bunch of social bullshit that the critical theories bring up, instead of worrying about making sure that we're ready to go whenever things pop off. Because as we've seen here, shit can pop off at any time. It doesn't matter how your feelings are feeling or if you need a safe space. Things can go south quickly. So yes, the Western leaders are dumb and they're extremely weak. Extremely weak. And to say applause washed over Biden, shut the fuck up. God, I'm going to curse more on this episode than I ever have reading this stupid stuff. Let's keep going. The Russian attack on Ukraine is appalling, he said Saturday night, and that's Trump said Saturday night. It is an outrage and an atrocity that should never have been allowed to occur. Wherever Trump stands, it is not with Biden's anti-Putin legion. Biden is at the forefront of a global coalition that has isolated the Russian strongman, levied debilitating sanctions on him, and rallied to provide aid and moral support to Ukrainian fighters. So they frame it this way because they want you to believe this, when in fact, it's not right. He has not led a global coalition that has isolated the Russian strongman. First of all, he hasn't led shit. I will continue to say that. Joe Biden is not leading anything. He's one of the weakest leaders in the world right now. They are not rallying around Joe Biden. They are rallying around Volodymyr Zelensky and the things that he's putting out. Volodymyr Zelensky's bravery is what people are talking about. Nobody on the world stage is talking about President Biden. Nobody. Not in a positive way, at least. Not in a positive way. I forget what show it was today. I think it might have been today. They interviewed an MP from Ukraine, and they asked her what they thought of Biden's speech. And she said it was disappointing that it didn't give them everything that they needed. They didn't hear the things they wanted to hear from the president of the free world. They are disappointed with Joe Biden and that he didn't condemn it stronger. He didn't come down stronger. He didn't guarantee no-fly zones, which I don't think they should do a no-fly zone. That is absolutely saying we're at war with Russia. But at the same time, you have Ukrainians in the government saying that Biden is pathetic and disappointing. And a coalition that isolated the Russian strongman, they didn't isolate him. He still has China. He still has a bunch of Middle Eastern nations. India's still doing business with them. We're fucking still doing business with them. We're getting 500,000 barrels of gas and of oil and gas from him every single day. He's still doing deals with South America. We haven't isolated him in any which way. And debilitating sanctions, I do have to say, the sanctions have been heavy. But again, all those countries I mentioned, they're picking up the slack. He could work around all the sanctions. There's things like Bitcoin. He could definitely start using Bitcoin, which he's going to. I guarantee he's going to start using some sort of Bitcoin or some sort of CBDC of some sort of digital currency. And they provided aid and moral support to Ukrainian fighters. Fuck the moral support. Aid they have provided. The West has been good about providing aid. I'll give them that. Let's keep going. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment. And the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security, Biden said Tuesday night. This is the same Joe Biden that praised the way China did things early in his presidency and said, we're going to fight whether or not democracies or China's version is a better way to go. And he's openly praised China and how they do things in their government. So this guy is full of shit, Joe Biden. It's not clear whether there will be any domestic political consequences to U.S. actions in Eastern Europe. That's because the outcome of Ukraine's battle to remain independent is in doubt, and because most American voters don't cast ballots based primarily on foreign policy. No, they don't. That is true. But domestic political consequences, he's already on the water. I believe most polls have him at low 30% for how he's handling Ukraine, Russia. His actual rating for most places is 40% or lower. The guy is doing bad, and this isn't going to help him. This isn't going to help him because he's a bad leader. He's not good at his job. Let's keep going. In normal times, the former president's position on a distant war would be politically irrelevant. But Trump appears to be lining up to run again in 2024 when Biden says he'll be a candidate for re-election. And let's talk about Obama here. Come on. Obama, whenever he speaks, you freaking lefties still treat it as gospel. Keep going. More importantly, for the time being, Trump's odd equivocation, the invasion is bad, but Putin is blameless, is underscoring Biden's certitude at a time when Biden's approval ratings have been stuck below 40%. So let's see there. When did he say Putin was blameless? He didn't say Putin was blameless. He denounced the whole thing. That lumps Putin into it. Listen, someone could be wrong and still be intelligent. You can acknowledge that somebody's an intelligent person, but their actions are incorrect. That's okay to do, but not for this guy. No. Not for this moron. And again, there you go. He talks about the approval ratings have been stuck below 40%. Why have the approval ratings been stuck below 40%? And why should Trump help Biden out? It's underscoring Biden's certitude at a time when Biden's approval ratings have been stuck under 40%. Why should that matter to Trump? Why should that matter to Trump? He should be happy. Keep those ratings low. The guy sucks at his job. Keep going. This is reflected in the fact that most Republicans in Congress are closer to Biden on Ukraine policy. Trump, for example, mocked the U.S. and its European allies for threatening to sanction Putin if he invaded, suggesting their attack gave Russia president the green light. And it did. It did. A lot of the Republicans are happy that they're finally levying sanctions. But like I said, about a month ago, Ted Cruz had a bill on the Senate floor, which almost passed, that was going to sanction Russia before they attacked. That's when sanctions are truly effective. if they occur pre, so he can start to choke out early. They didn't. They didn't do it. They went for Bob Menendez's sanction package, which only happened if something went through, and the president still had to announce it. So it's bizarre, and it did give Joe Biden's weakness on the world stage absolutely gave Putin the green light. And that's not even a question. And all Western allies' weakness. The fact that he consistently has said, we are not putting boots on the ground to combat Russia means Russia is not going to stop. Until somebody puts boots on the ground to aid Ukraine, they are not going to stop. They will take Ukraine and they will go south and they will start taking nations to the south of them that are former Soviet nations. They will not stop until boots are on the ground against them from NATO nations. And then it's World War. Because I'm 100% firmly believing that China has their back. And if China gets involved, you're going to see a shit ton of turncoats on the Western nations. Mark my words. Let's keep going. If you take over Ukraine, we're going to sanction you, they say. Trump said Saturday night. Sanction? Well, that's a pretty weak statement. And he stops there because he doesn't finish it. That sanction is a pretty weak statement. He then goes on to talk about how swift is what they need to do if they're going to sanction. He talks about which sanctions would be stronger. So again, this guy only wants to give you half the article, not even less than half of what's said. Let's keep going. But Republicans in Congress have been supportive of U.S. sanctions on Russia, Putin, and Putin's allies. Many of them have pressed the administration levy harder sanctions faster. Yes, they want bigger sanctions. They're happy he's doing something. That's what they're happy about. I was pleased to hear President Biden's call for national and world unity in support for our ally, Ukraine, as it faces brutal assault from Russia. Senator Bob Portman, Republican from Ohio, said in a statement Tuesday night, while the administration has now implemented the sanctions some of us called for them to implement before the invasion occurred, I urge them to do even more on sanctions and use all the tools at their disposal to hold President Putin accountable. Like he said, they call for these sanctions pre-invasion, not after the invasion. And also, they take a guy like Rob Portman, who no people don't know, a senator that most people don't know from Ohio, use his quote, instead of people who truly are adversaries to Biden. Portman's a uniparty guy. He's a uniparty guy. He's not a guy that's really fighting for the country. You have guys like Mike Lee. Take Mike Lee's quote. See what Mike Lee has to say about this shit. Mike Lee's a guy that the right is actually listening to. Let's keep going. It was savvy of Biden to start his speech with a section on Ukraine, where his policy is most unifying, because even casual viewers would see images of Republicans and Democrats applauding as he led the American government in making a forceful statement of support. So again, this is all about theater for this guy writing it, that the fact that Biden talking about Ukraine, which, let me stop right here. I hate when people say the Ukraine. It's not the Ukraine. It's Ukraine. There is no the in front of it. Anyway, sidebar closed. But him saying that's unifying to see them clapping. This guy's all about theater. Biden's underwater. He knows it, and he's cheering for Biden to get better. This is a theater article. It's a puff piece, and it's bad. Let's finish this nonsense up. But if there was any doubt about the larger role Biden sees himself in, he clarified it by using the phrase free world 3 times. The free world is holding him accountable, Biden said of Putin. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war on Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. And the free world is stronger, so is its leader. Jesus Christ, he used the word free world 3 times, and that's supposed to be a powerful statement. Are you kidding me? And again, all the things that I read here sound much better in the way Joe Biden said it. I did his part of his speech better than he did, because Biden stumbled through every freaking part of his speech. And Jonathan Allen is just a partisan hack. NBC News should be ashamed to allow this guy to write this article. It was dishonest. 100% through dishonest. Nothing that he said was very true. The puff piece that he's trying to puff up Joe Biden to make him seem better than he is not true. The American people see that Joe Biden sucks. Now, don't get me wrong. A bunch of these morons that know Joe Biden sucks will go back to the ballot box and vote for him because they're D's for life. And that's all they're going to do is always vote D because they're fucking idiots. But they still know he sucks. And he's a terrible president, gave a terrible State of the Union, and is an awful leader that nobody looks to talk to with respect on the world stage. Nobody respects Joe Biden on the world stage. It was Germany leading the charge because what they said went in terms of NATO and starting the sanctions. And everyone is looking at Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky for his leadership. No, only thing people are worried about with Joe Biden is how he's going to fuck it up, or if he's going to fuck it up. Which the longer this goes on, there's a good chance he does. He had a number of gaffes in that. Besides stumbling, he called Ukrainians Iranians, which Kamala Harris, I saw her visibly go, my God, right behind her. She tried to hide it, but you saw her say it. He, at the end of it, said, go get him. Who the fuck knows what go get him means, who he was talking to. He let out his racism. We all know Joe Biden's a giant racist, but he was trying to give us a touching story about 2 Dominican cops that were shot and killed in New York City. This is after he claimed that he wants to fund the police and not defund the police, when his whole party ran on defunding the police because the police are a bunch of racists. He tried to do a 1080 on that, or whatever it is, 360, I don't know what the correct phrase is, but he tried to do something on that. The guy's a goddamn liar. But he was trying to tell a story about 2 Dominican New York City officers that were shot and killed in New York City. And he was trying to give a heartfelt thing. And I don't have the exact quote, but I'm going to paraphrase that they dedicated their lives to the streets that they grew up on. Now the streets that they would patrol. That's what he thinks of black people, that they're all on parole. He's a racist. The dude's a racist, and he always has been. But just gaps like that, going off script to tell stupid stories, always talking about his dead son, Bo, We get it. Your son was in the military. He passed away tragically. Joe Biden has been through some absolutely terrible shit. Not going to lie. I do feel for Joe Biden at times because he's been through terrible things in terms of his son passing away, his wife passing away. The human side, I feel for him. He's a terrible politician, a terrible president, one of the worst we've ever had already. And it's media like this that's why nobody trusts them. These puff pieces that are extremely dishonest, that have no place in being even on a media site at all, even if it's labeled analysis. There was no analysis. This was just praise, and it was terrible. All right, that is going to wrap up today's episode of the Alex West, the Daily Show. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, and spread this word of mouth if you like it. Follow us on the socials. Go search the Alex Cuesta Show. You'll find it anywhere there. God willing, my computer participates, and I will be back tomorrow. So everyone hang tight. Hopefully I will, and we'll be talking about another news story tomorrow. Hopefully it won't be as depressing and as shitty as this one. So everyone, again, thanks for listening. Have a good one, y'all.